Hey everyone, my name is Blake. I'm with CarShare Consulting. Thanks for tuning in today. In a minute here, I'm going to be bringing out Alex. And I'm just going to be doing a full-on interview. Alex is going to tell you his whole entire experience over the last year and a half here with his BMW i8. He had a Jaguar. He has a Jaguar F-Type R, which he currently owns, and he also had a Dodge Hellcat Charger. Three amazing sports cars. And he'll talk about how he gets them to pay for themselves and even makes money on top of it. But he'll give you his whole experience, start to finish, so you can hear from him. But before we get to that, I just wanted to share with you, from now, from when you're watching this until Black Friday coming up here very soon, we're going to be offering to the first 50 people that reach out to us and schedule a call. After scheduling that call and holding that call, you're going to get access to the course at a much discounted rate compared to what we're going to be selling it for at most of the time. And the reason for that is we just really want to get the first few people in here without oversaturating the marketplace. I don't want to have 1,000 people out there with this product. It's going to make it it's going to be too much. We really just want to focus on the first 50 people, really give them an amazing experience. We'd love for you to be a part of that. But without further ado, I'm going to bring out Alex here now, and we'll see you in a minute. Come on out, Alex. Hey guys, welcome to CarShare Consulting, and I'm here with, as promised, interview with Alex. And Alex is going to be, I'm going to be asking some questions today about his experience, with car sharing. How long have you been doing this now for?
Just over a year and a half.
Yeah, so a year and a half. We're going to talk about his whole experience. And Alex came in, he saw me doing it, with my Volkswagen CC, and then of course with my Porsche Cayman, which I got a few months after I started, renting out my Volkswagen CC. So, I'm going to have Alex, just kind of, I'm going to kind of give you the floor here and just kind of like let you share exactly, what it was like we were friends, well, like how did we meet? I was walking my dog or whatever.
Yeah,
we both had dogs.
We both had dogs,
and just knew each other because we lived in the same apartment building. But yeah, go ahead and take it away, Alex, and just share your experience and kind of how you saw me doing this and eventually how it came into where you're at today.
Yeah, no, basically, I'm just a fan of cars, and at the time, I saw Blake. He had purchased the Porsche Cayman, and I didn't know exactly what he meant by the fact that it's paying for itself. He shared that with me, and I didn't really understand what he was saying, and so I kind of, never mind it. And then I actually saw him a few weeks later, and he was talking with somebody as they got out of the car, the Cayman, and so I went up to him and I'm like, hey, is that what you're talking about? Like you rent the car out? And he's like, yeah, that's the process. And then we kind of dove in a little bit more, and that's when I just got the light bulb went off. And at the time, I was really discouraged because I wanted to upgrade from the Challenger SRT8. It was an '09 that I had, and I really wanted a Hellcat. But before I had heard of what you were doing, I kind of predicted, okay, I'll probably have to wait 3 to 5 years before it would make sense for me to go ahead and purchase that car, just because I was really trying to plan for my future. And that's why I was feeling discouraged as a car enthusiast. I'm like, well, I was about to trade in the Challenger for just an economy car. I'm like, you know what, screw it, I'll just wait until I'm older, because no matter any way you cut it, when you're purchasing a vehicle, I mean, that's income out of your pocket that could be put towards savings and investing. And I just was getting onto all that knowledge, and I just didn't feel comfortable. So when I saw you doing this, I thought to myself, here's a way I can enjoy my passion. Here's a way I can enjoy cars and cut the costs and the losses associated with that. And that's what happened. So I had the Charger Hellcat, fully enjoyed it, and kind of caught the bug from there and kept it moving.
So so it's almost like you were like a car enthusiast type person who wanted to have multiple or just one car that you were that you really wanted. I think it was like a Hellcat, and you were looking at Nissan GTRs. Like there was some cars that you were looking at, but you were just in a position where it was a few years down the road, and we all know these people out there. There are these people who are the car enthusiasts, and they have their dream cars and they enjoy them. But the reality is that we don't really realize this. But that person probably had to work years and years and years, to save up to buy these cars. Oftentimes, I see people at these car shows, and it's like they're just living in like a smaller apartment, but they have like a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
It's like they finance their whole life, and it's like everything's around like their cars, and that's okay. That's their passion. but huge expense that it's just not realistic for people, especially if you want to have a family or you have other things that are going on in your life, and that was kind of your situation.
I mean, it's just a huge sacrifice if you think about all that expense going out. Not only is it the actual dollar amount, but it's the opportunity cost of putting your money into a car, or instead of putting your money into an investment. You know what I mean? And so what car sharing is, and the techniques and strategies that are involved, it just eliminates all that loss. And it really makes car ownership and car enthusiasm a much more reasonable and it's not so costly.
It's allowed you to shortcut this.
Exactly, and enjoy it while I'm young, and enjoy it.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So you like, how often, like, people are like, oh, if I get one of these cars, it's going to be rented out all the time, and I'll never get to have it. It's going to rack up all these miles. Like, what's the point, right?
Yeah.
So what's that like? How often do you actually get to have the cars for yourself?
Yeah. So it's really, depending on the type of car that you have and the purpose behind it, especially with the high-end cars, you're looking at about 75 to 80% of the time the car is actually in your possession. So, this car, I was on a trip down to Miami this past week, and while I was gone, the car had about three trips, and it brought in $1,500 into my pocket. And so, with that being said, with the 3 trips that happened in the first week of the month, I covered the payment for the car. And so, with that being said, I really could, if I wanted to, if my goal was just to own the car and have it supplemented, or people have it paid for. I could just be like, all right, for the rest of the month, I'm just going to enjoy it. But that's not why I have the car, and wasn't my strategy with this one, and so I'll let it go. But for the majority of the time, I'm able to drive it during the week to work, and because these cars get rented on the weekend a lot, that's usually where I make my, income.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So you enjoy these cars, 75, 80% of the time. They're in your possession, even though you still are making, a pretty big profit on these cars.
Yeah.
Like in just 1 week, it was 1 weekend or whatever, a few days there, you covered your payment.
Yeah. And I've been doing these case studies on the cars, and I have the Jaguar F-Type R, which did just under $1,700 a month. And while I had the Hellcat, it averaged about just over $900 a month.
Yeah.
So the car,
but how much have you learned since then? Like doing the Hellcat was.
Yeah.
It's like you were a different host.
Exactly. And I was coming in a way that was, I was fresh to the platform, and we made those mistakes, both you and I together. And as we made those mistakes, I mean, that's how the cars performed. With those mistakes being made, and I look back and think, oh wow, if we could have just made these decisions here, my whole strategy and the way that I came about car sharing would have changed. I definitely think that by bringing these learned lessons, it's going to make a huge difference in the lives of the hosts that choose to come on the platform and work with us. So
yeah. Like even then, like I knew significantly less than I know now.
Yeah.
I didn't know anyone else in the industry. Anyone else, sharing their cars. I've met a few other hosts. We went to a conference a little while back with some other hosts, and we built up our network, and we've really learned a lot about things that were just kind of like, whoa, I didn't even know that existed, or like, whoa, I can't believe I was doing that. If something went wrong there, I could have been in big trouble.
Exactly.
Like with regards to insurance and stuff like that. It's just stuff that that doesn't really like click until like you make the mistake, or you see someone else make a mistake, and then you learn from it.
Yeah.
So it's a big part of this.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a little bit. Clearly the cars are paying for themselves. Financially, it didn't make sense for you to go out and buy one of these cars without car sharing.
Mm-hmm.
So it allowed you to almost like time travel to a point in your life where you would be able to enjoy these cars today when you're young, not when you're like 50 years old and like in a different point in your life.
Exactly.
And like life happens. Like chances are, if I'll do it in 5 years, chances are like you'll have kids then. You'll have new responsibilities.
Yeah.
So time can obviously get away from us, and I'm sure if we talk to someone a little bit older than us, they would obviously agree with that.
Exactly.
But,
yeah. Yeah, and that's really the cool thing about this is, having that extra $900 a month to pay for your Hellcat and your Passion, and that extra $1,700 a month for your Jaguar. I mean, that just takes out of the equation. And when you look at it in a forward-thinking process, and you use the tools that we have, you can really plan it out to a T to make sure that in 3 years from now, and 2 years from now, and 1 year from now, this is where I'm going to be. and this is how much I expect to to make, and this is what I plan for the car. And that forward thought is really like a huge aspect of the whole process.
So whenever you're like getting these cars, so people might be like, oh, but he couldn't, he can like you were able to get the financing on the cars, technically, like you would be able to like get approved for it, even though you knew personally, financially, it was not a good decision to do without car sharing.
Well, yeah, at any consumer type expenses, for me, personally, I know that that's chalked up to a loss. And with car enthusiasm, it just kind of sucks because you're telling me that my passion or the thing that I really like is something that's hurting me in the long run. And so it's just battle within car enthusiasts, and like having car sharing to take that away and allow you to move forward in a way that's not gonna impair you, and still allow you to enjoy, and you can even strategize to make it somewhat a business model in which you profit. It's just a really cool thing.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so looking at, I mean, like day to day, I mean, we've talked about like how you've been able to enjoy the cars. What is it like? Would you say
75, 80%
of the month?
Yeah.
While and this is while you're utilizing it in a way to like have them rent out as frequently as possible at your daily rate of $300, $400 a day, right?
Yeah. So this car is $399 a day.
$399 a day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So and it depends on the car, depends on the market, and depends on like the way that you strategize. But so I have this car pretty much optimized here. It's always available, and it's automated. So like I said, I was on a trip, and the car goes while I'm on the trip. And so I've been pretty successful with this car. With that being said, different cars work better and worse in certain situations or in certain locations. But for the most part, yeah, I've maximized this car and really been able to successfully host it.
Yeah. Looking at the market and because this particular car, the i8, was a purchase of yours. This wasn't one of your dream cars, was it?
No, it wasn't. I used to hate this car, but from like a distance, I was just like, oh, I knew all the negative stipulations about it. And then I actually drove one, and I'm like, actually, it's really comfortable. And I had the Hellcat at the time, which just felt completely out of control. I felt like I was going to get arrested driving it because
scary.
It was just and like in the city. And I thought, okay, I think this car is going to have a big mainstream appeal. It'll rent for a higher price. There's none available in my area at this point. Let me try this one out. And so I made that. It was also all-wheel drive. And so yeah, this one is more for the purpose of sharing and trying to be really successful at sharing. Meanwhile, the Jaguar F-Type R kind of fulfills my need for that really almost muscular, like muscle car, sports car, performance-oriented vehicle, and both are really phenomenal to drive. So this is kind of like the daily, and the Jaguar is kind of my more performance-oriented car. And so between the two, that's my goal. I just want to enjoy these cars while I worked in a normal 9 to 5 military officer type of job, and yeah, that was my goal, and I've been fulfilling it.
So let's take like your desire route. I mean, like this car is still a cool car to have. Wasn't your dream car, but like I drove it. I mean, I tested the fact that it's a great like Grand Tour type car.
Mm-hmm.
But and the reasons for you buying it was more of like an investment type reason.
Yeah.
What if the people watching this today, what if they aren't like huge petrol heads like we are, or really want that dream car? What if they're looking at this as more of like just a straight business?
Yeah.
Like this is a cool way for me to like supplement my income, or maybe even quit my job and just start a huge fleet of cars. Because I mean we don't do that actively. We have I have 3 cars, and then you have 2 cars now.
Mm-hmm.
So we do this pretty part time, very very low level of effort that goes into this in order to make the amount of money that we make off of it.
Yeah.
If you an individual, like, should they go out and buy a bunch of Toyota Yaurises, or what, like let's talk to like that person a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely think that we've met them. We've met those hosts that have these extremely large fleets, and that's what they do full time. Although they are the smaller percentage of hosts, there's nothing stopping you from becoming. And there's pros and cons to that choice. Once again, it comes back to your goals, and so you could definitely either supplement your income or even go full time depending on your situation. I've heard of folks that just have a fleet of minivans and convertible Mustangs, and they've run the numbers and they've had some experience with it to say, okay, this is this is something I can do on the side or go full time with it.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, it just goes back to your goals and your expectations.
Well, I mean, I kind of did. Like my Volkswagen CC was an economy car, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think we have one of our case studies is on that car.
Yeah.
Like that was I used that car as a way, like, okay, before I go out and buy, like I had the idea in my head of like going out and getting like a higher end sports car to utilize it in car sharing before I even ever put my car on there. But I put my Volkswagen CC on there first to get like a proof of concept. How's this going to work? Because the reality is that some people may not be able to go out and just buy an $80,000 car.
And maybe they shouldn't.
They should.
But at the same time, they can start to build, and they could strategize to use other type of economy cars to build up to that.
So let's talk about where you were at when you first got like first started getting into this. Like where were you at, like income wise, credit score wise, expenses wise, like were you like did you have an extra $2,000 a month, extra every month, that instead of saving it you could have gone, or is it significantly less?
Yeah, so I was a military officer, and so I made a decent living, a decent income, but nothing extravagant. And I had a certain amount of savings at the end of each month, to the point where, yeah, I guess I could have.
Was that savings always there, or did you sometimes spend it on Nike?
It changed. It was never consistent to a point where I could say, yeah, I think it's responsible for me to go out and purchase this car. And I could definitely tell at the time I was in the transformation period of thinking about my future. That's why I was thinking about getting rid of the SRT8 Challenger and just thinking to myself, okay, how can I think down the line? So, yeah, I guess I could have done it, but then I would have been tied up super tight, and that would have been no fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're not going to be able to jump in and just get to a certain level. You might be held to a smaller level, but I think there's room for everybody to get involved in car sharing and benefit from it.
Yeah. So at the end here, I want to ask you, if you were in someone else's shoes, what would you do as the next step? But before I do that, is there anything else, about your journey thus far that you wanted to share, like specific to your situation, or what you learned, the biggest takeaways?
No, I think my biggest takeaway is just to plan ahead and to really educate yourselves and strategize. So that's the only thing I can say as a lessons learned, or one of my lessons learned. But then also this is something to be leveraged, whether you like cars or not, whether you want a high performance or luxury car or not. This is something that's available to a mass, population of folks that could benefit from it. And you can completely automate the systems. And so that would be the other things, not only just to plan, but just to utilize it. If you're just letting this opportunity go by, you could be losing out on a lot. So.
Yeah. If someone doesn't have the highest income, they don't have the highest credit score, like they're in a situation where it would be difficult for them to even acquire financing on a car like this, or lease one of these cars. What would you suggest to them as a next step?
Really just to educate themselves. So no matter who you are, there's a spot and there's a type of car that you can leverage and you can get to.
Should they start with like the car they already have?
Maybe, yeah, maybe or maybe not, depending on your situation and your goals, right? So that's all. That usually is a good idea, is to start with what you have, just to kind of test your market to see if this is even something you're interested in doing. But then once when you talk about, what's their advice to get started, is just to understand what it will look like as a whole, and to understand what is it exactly that you need. Because I know a lot of people, they don't really care about cars, right? They don't really, it's not a life experience that they care to pay for or enjoy or deal with. And that's totally fine, but there's a place in car sharing, and there's leverage there for you to utilize or you to experience. And then if you are somebody that enjoys cars and was coming across the same dilemma I was I can't reasonably, make these purchases or experience these things, because I know in the long run it's going to be hurting me. It's going to be hurting my future. And so, the basic thing to understand is that you need to educate yourself to see what's possible and to start to strategize and prepare yourself to use car sharing to benefit. So.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for your time today. Is there anything else that, as far as like what are the biggest takeaways that you've had from your experience that you've learned, and that, overall, man, it's been a positive experience
Yeah.
for you, right?
Yeah, no, it's been a really positive experience, but those lessons learned have been huge for me. And starting with strategizing, like I've been saying, strategize is and to have forethought is huge in your experience, as well as just preparing for the unfortunate situations that you deal with in car sharing, and understanding the black and white policy and how sometimes it blends together and how those things happen is something you can't really see until you experience them. So with that being said, I wish I had known about them, but there's no really way to do that, which is why we kind of brought this to the table. So those are my two things: just to strategize and to be very familiar with the black and white policy. But otherwise, I've just been extremely joyous to be experiencing these cars, my Jaguar F-Type, to be able to drive them and to hand them over to people who are also just enjoying them. I think a lot of people might think, people, you have to. I mean, I hope you have a greater sense of trust and humanity, that the people that are coming are not abusive.
That's one thing we didn't touch on too much. I don't think is going to be what are the people like? I mean, I've had amazing experiences with my renters.
Yeah.
I think you've had
I've
almost
had
as good.
overwhelmingly good. There's always going to be those few, bad apples that spoil the bunch, but not in a way that's deterrent. And when you learn how to see those coming, I mean, now I can literally see them coming.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can see the problems arising, and I nip them before they even start.
Yeah.
And so, like, with the experience that you kind of get to prevent them, it lessens it. But when people come to rent a car, whether it's the fact that they have a deposit on the car, or the fact that they're responsible for the car, or what actually is the majority is people don't want to ruin other people's things. I mean, you have to think in a majority here. If you interview 10 people, there's the majority are going to be good, wholehearted people. And so, and Turo and these car share platforms, they vet a lot of the folks that come through.
I'll second that, man, because it's like the people that rent my cars. It's like they're like all of them are like enthusiasts. The people that rent the SUV, not like I have an X6, not so much.
Mhm.
But still always, very like they almost know that is like they're renting someone's personal vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And they treat it as such. Has been my experience.
And I mean,
you've had that as well.
Yeah, and so there's that, and there's also that their financial well-being is in the car as well. So like, I rented a car about a week ago, and it was an older economy car, it was like a 2009, but I still was very cautious with the car because it's somebody else's.
How do we know? So we're not there when the car's out on the trip. Like
Mm-hmm.
How do you know someone treated the car well?
Well, you have GPS options to make sure the way that they drive the car is not abusive. And then there's
What is that, like a tracking unit, or
it's a tracking unit. You can find them on Amazon, and there's a lot of different options with that. So you have that option. You can put cameras in the car. You have to read through the policy on that. Basically, the guest has to acknowledge. So that's another degree that you can go to, and just general general trust. And when you receive the car, you do your inspections on it. The spots to check. That's another big one. Just know the spots to check, and if there's anything that's out of place, there's ways to document that and address it as need be. So, I don't want to sugarcoat it and think, hey, and say it's all great and it's never been bad. No, I've had situations where I've had to deal with it, but overwhelmingly, it's been a positive experience, and my cars have been maintained in a great manner, and I've just had a good time.
So after a year and a half of doing this, have you like this is a passive thing for you, right? Did you set this up like, okay, I want to spend 10 hours a day, 5 days a week on this?
I did not.
Was that your intention?
I didn't set that up. My first intention was, let me go part-time with this, with the Hellcat. Let me see what can be done with this. And then from there, I remember thinking to myself, oh my goodness, I can do two of these. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And still be in the same position. And so that's what I'm saying. There wasn't that foresight. There wasn't that goal setting, that strategizing that's why I keep repeating it so much. But as time has gone on, it's still a passive thing. It's not something I do full time, but more so to enjoy my love of cars.
Right. You've put systems in place. You've learned ways of doing things to make it more like automated.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Great. Thanks for hopping on this interview with me and telling everyone about your story here. Of course, if they want to get more involved with car share consulting, Alex actively helps me. Actually, this whole idea of this whole entire business, car share consulting as a whole, wouldn't exist if Alex ever never came up to me and asked me, how can I do this? And then a light bulb went off in my head, and Alex has obviously been working hand in hand with me to bring you guys this content here, and there's a lot more to come. There's actually a ton of it exists, hours and hours of it exists out there. So if you guys want to learn more, feel free to book a call with us, shoot us an email. We're very easy to get a hold of at this time, and we'd love to chat with you and hear about your situation and kind of find out if this could be a fit for you or where you would fall in the spectrum of car sharing and utilizing it for your situation. But thanks again, guys, and we hope to speak with you soon.
Thanks.